The Panthers have yet again another major loss, this time on Sunday, September 8th, which was the season opener against the New Orleans Saints. We'll be discussing the game, a recap of the game. We'll be discussing the unfortunate Derrick Brown injury, thoughts on how the team can improve the rest of the season, and then we'll be going into some listener questions. Ian, I'm here. You here?
I'm here.
All right, let's get.
Touchdown, Carolina! You're listening to the Buzz Pound.
Smith scores, and the Carolina Panthers win in overtime.
A Queen City sports podcast covering your Charlotte Hornets and Carolina Panthers.
Halliburton, nowhere to go! LaMelo's done it! LaMelo's done it! Hornets win! Here comes LaMelo.
Here are your hosts, Ian Blair and Cam Gardner.
Ian, we have suffered yet again another heartbreaking loss by our Carolina Panthers. How are you making it 2 days after?
Man, it was rough. It was rough. I know both you and me have a ton of thoughts on the game, obviously. I mean, I'll go ahead and
Yeah.
get it kicked off for us. Obviously on Sunday, the Panthers fell to the Saints 47-10, and nobody on the team really looked good. It was a rough watch. I know, unfortunately I had the chance to watch the entire game, and it was just an all around, I mean, right from the jump. Rashid Shaheed got the Saints started with a big bomb. JC Horn was in coverage on the play. It was a cover three with the safety supposed to help over top, and it was a miscommunication. I mean, Rashid Shaheed, big play guy, scored, and then on the ensuing drive, excuse me, Bryce threw a pick on the first play, overthrow to Deontay Johnson right to the DB's hands. So Panthers only had 11 first downs on the game. Saints had 22. So the Saints had obviously double the amount of first downs we had. So just some quick stats. We were 1 for 10 on third down, 1 for 3 on fourth down. There's 4 sacks given up by our offensive line, 3 to Alante Taylor, who, by the way, Alante Taylor is a corner. So, struggling to pick up the nickel blitz. Bryce just didn't he the blitz was just something he didn't pick up at all on Sunday. He looked confused. He looked like he had no clue what the Saints were bringing. And obviously the 3 turnovers killed us. We just didn't play winning football. Two interceptions from Bryce, the Jonathan Mingo fumble. We just didn't look good in all phases of the game. And it's really disappointing, especially with all the offseason moves we've made. And we expected to see improvement this year, and I don't think we saw any of that game one.
Yeah, not at all, Ian. Like you said with Bryce Young, we're talking about 13 completed passes with 30 attempts, 161 yards, 0 passing touchdowns. He had the 1 rushing touchdown that we barely got back. They could have easily snatched that from us if they wanted to. And we're all talking about 2 interceptions, like you said. And honestly, even the rest of our leading players didn't play great football. Adam Thielen, he had 3 receptions, 49 yards, 0 touchdowns. Jonathan Mingo, 2 receptions, 40 yards, 0 touchdowns. Again, with the fumble, that was a major loss for us because that put the Saints back in, gave them the ball back and gave them more time to score. Xavier Leggett, we're talking 4 receptions, 35 yards, 0 touchdowns. And on the rushing side of things, Miles Sanders, he only had 5 carries and 22 yards. And with all of that, those were our leading stats. And that is not great football. I mean, the Saints, we made Derek Carr look like a great quarterback, if we're being honest. We're
Yeah,
talking
it's just
19 completed passes, 23 attempts, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, honestly, that's what we were hoping for Bryce in this game, or what we'll see from him this season. But right now, Not sure what the likelihood of that is anymore. Like you said, we made moves this, off season, and I refuse to believe we got worse than what we were. We made the right moves, and I, I'm sick mentally at this point. It's just like a reoccurring thing, and overall, like you said, Bryce Young, he just did not seem like himself when watching, summer camp and practice footage. He seemed like his confidence was boosted a bit. He seemed more like what we've seen of him in college, but in this game one, it's like his confidence just went down all over again, looking like he did last year. Can't really identify the problem. But there were definitely some wide open passes that he still overthrew somehow. So I'm starting to wonder, is it that he can't see over the line, or I don't know. And then it just seemed like, kind of like Canales said, the togetherness wasn't there. I just didn't see where our team was all on the same page, offensively or defensively. I mean, they cooked us both ways of the field, even on special teams.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and the reports coming out of camp this offseason was Bryce is going to take the next step. Bryce looked great from all reports in camp, um, and played well in camp. And it's just hard. It's hard to understand where things went so wrong. And obviously, whenever you have turnovers early in the game, put the Saints in good field position. It's really hard. That's just not good football. It's not winning football. Turnovers kill any team in the NFL. If you have a lot of turnovers, if you have two or more turnovers in a game, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to lose the game. Um, and we turned the ball over. Bryce didn't look good in any facet of the game, missing open receivers, and just a complete. He didn't look. He looks like he's lacking confidence. And whenever a quarterback loses confidence, no matter how much talent you have, it's going to be hard to overcome, especially at Bryce's size. And he's talented as any quarterback. I wouldn't say any quarterback in the league, but he's very extremely talented. There's a reason, like we said on the last pod, there's a reason we drafted him number 1 overall. He's an extremely talented kid, but he's just lacking confidence right now. And I don't know if he's going to get it back this year. I don't know what it's going to take. We're going to talk a little bit later in the episode about, where we go from here, but I'm always a glass half full kind of guy, and I've always been that way. I think one of the positives we could take out of this is it's only game one. Many teams lose game one out of the year and can rebound. I'm not going to say we're going to win 11 games this year, but what I'm saying is it's week one. There's still a lot of football left to be played this year. Yes, we played terrible from kickoff on Sunday, but if you're looking at it glass half full, there, like Cam said, there's no way we can be worse than we were last year. I refuse to believe that as a Panthers fan.
Agreed. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself.
So, right after the game, things got worse. Obviously, Derrick Brown, who played the majority of the game, I don't know when he got hurt during the game, but played the majority of the game. And even when he was in the game, we couldn't stop the run. But our best player on defense from the previous year just signed a big contract, was put on season-ending IR. I think today he was put on IR
Yeah,
with a
that's right.
meniscus injury.
I know it was a knee injury. I'm not sure what the specifics of it were. I'm assuming that's probably what it was.
So yeah,
Um,
obviously a devastating blow after week one. I mean, the news just kept getting worse on Sunday. I feel like news came out about Derrick Brown on Monday morning. That was rough. It was just not good to see. You hate seeing guys get hurt, especially when they put in all the work in the offseason, want to play. Derrick Brown signing that big contract in the offseason, and just a tough blow for our defense. I mean, it's devastating. It really is. There's no other way to phrase it. Um, Cam, do you kind of want to speak on that?
I think tragic is the word. You say devastating, I say tragic. we already lost Brian Burns. It was a big defensive piece. So obviously the organization looked at Derrick Brown as our new defensive leader. He's been in the league since 2020. And they, like you said, he signed a 4-year, $96 million contract extension this summer, back in April. And I'm sure he was feeling good going into the season. And for it to end up like this, it's truly heartbreaking. He's a major piece. Uh, it's just like you already thought it couldn't get any worse, and then we woke up to
Yeah.
that on Monday,
Yep.
and then we hear that they signed a veteran in Charles Harris. If I'm not mistaken, he's coming from Detroit.
Yeah.
Um,
So Charles Harris, he was a former first round pick in 27 by the Dolphins, out of Missouri.
okay, so that's who they're looking to kind of be the replacement. They did that mighty quick. Um, Honestly, just because he hasn't been around long, I'm not seeing him to be a big impact. If he does, it won't be right away because he's still gonna have to learn our system and such. It's a big blow. I mean, the only thing I could say, we have someone we can really count on that's been with us for a minute is Shaq Thompson. Another defensive guy that's probably our second hand
Yep.
leader of the defensively.
Yep.
So hopefully this is his time to step up. We don't have Brown. He's out for the rest of the season. Major loss, but it's time for him to step up and lead these guys, which I'm sure he's been training to become after a while. But the question is, can it get worse than this, Ian?
I mean, I, I said on last week's pod that it's hard to get much worse than last year when we won 2 games and didn't have our first round pick. I mean, on the bright side, we at least have our first round pick this year. So that's, I guess you put that in the category with glass half full. But yeah, the Panthers signing Charles Harris, I don't think the impact this year is going to be amazing. I feel like it was just to fill out the roster. Obviously, losing Derrick Brown, putting him on IR, you're going to have to sign someone else to come in. Charles Harris, obviously, after being a first round pick in 2017, hasn't really panned out to his draft status, for lack of a better term. He just hasn't really panned out in the league. Not to say he can't provide some valuable snaps for us on defense, but I don't think he's going to be nowhere near as impactful as Derrick Brown was, obviously, last year. Having over 100 tackles as a defensive tackle is impressive. Um, but yeah, it's an uphill battle right now. It really is. There's a lot of negative things we could say. We've said a lot of them, but going back on the bright side, I think it's still early in the season. I still believe Bryce is a talented quarterback. He has not showed us Panthers fans that he is capable of being a franchise quarterback. You could be talented and still not be the guy. And it's just frustrating, seeing other Panthers around the league. For example, Sam Darnold had a great week this past week. Baker Mayfield threw 4 touchdowns for the Bucks. I'm tired of seeing these players coming in to this organization not being good and then going to other teams and having success. And that starts from the top of the organization. But yeah, man, it's frustrating to say the least. And it feels like almost in a way, and we won't know for sure. I mean, hopefully Bryce can turn around, but it feels like this organization's wasting Bryce's talent. And as much as a Panthers fan we are, I think we could both agree on that.
100%. I mean, I don't know what it is. Our past experiments with quarterbacks, like you said, Darnold, Baker, they went off and they seem to have developed a bit more from where they were, particularly Baker. Thing. Um, I, I don't know what it is, man. I mean, like you said, it starts at the top first. So, as long as Tepper is there, I'm not sure how high our ceiling can get for us. It just seems to be the same pattern yearly, and this year's just starting off a lot quicker than the past two, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Well, looking next week, obviously the Panthers play the Chargers last week. The Chargers coming off of a win versus the Raiders. Um, Obviously quarterback Justin Herbert, great player, and we're playing in Carolina. And I feel like it's a new week, and let's see how the guys prepare and hopefully come out next week and play significantly better than we did last week. I think number one thing for on Sunday, this next Sunday, is not turning the ball over. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but it kills your team. It kills your team. You can't win football games turning the ball over. Um, and last week, I don't think the offensive line did a great job at protecting Bryce, but I don't think it was bad as it was last year. Bryce had no time last year to throw. I think a lot of it is just his failure to to, to see the blitz coming, especially the nickel blitz with a corner sacking your quarterback 3 times in a game. It's unacceptable. It just can't happen. Bryce needs to play significantly better next week for me to have any faith moving forward in him as our future.
I couldn't agree more. And, he takes accountability like a team leader is supposed to, but at some point, you got to step up and do something about it and prove your supporters and haters wrong. I mean, he keeps saying it's on him, it's on him. I'm not sure how much post game interviews you watch, but he takes 100% accountability. I give him that. Some players won't. They'll put it on other people, but something's got to be done. I mean, you can't just say it. Something's got to change. Like I said, I don't know what it is. We're seeing him. He has time to throw, but he's still throwing, extra long passes, throwing it to defenders on your first play, and then also coming out of halftime did the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't get it, man. Like you said, they can't do this again because we saw how quick the Saints game got away from us with interceptions
Yeah.
and fumbles.
Yep.
It's turning the ball over is huge and it can impact the game because obviously defensively we weren't able to stop them there either. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this team's going to ride or die with Bryce until he loses the locker room, which I don't think Bryce is that type of guy. Like Cam said, he's always, he's a humble guy. He says the right things. He takes accountability. He's not, for example, a Zach Wilson, who last year didn't take any of the blame and, obviously lost the locker room fairly quickly in New York. But this team's going to ride or die with Bryce, especially with the assets we poured into him, trading away DJ Moore and our first round pick to Chicago a couple years ago and dumping the assets we have into Bryce. This team is going to ride or die with Bryce. There's going to be no Andy Dalton. There's going to be no any other quarterback until we just see everything possible we can see from Bryce. We're going to give him every opportunity we can. And I agree with it. When you dump a bunch of assets into getting who you hope is your franchise quarterback, you got to let him play. I mean, it's just the organization has put themselves in a rough spot with this one. And just with the assets and everything, trading away your star receiver, trading away your first round pick that year, and the one next year, the one this past year, we obviously turned into Caleb Williams. And I still think it could work out. Maybe that's just me being a Homer Panthers fan, but I think it can still work out. We just need to turn around quick.
I've told myself that same thing over the past few years, and not much has changed each time. The quarterback may have changed, but the story didn't change. But
Yeah.
hopefully, with this one, just like you said, as much assets we put in to obtain this guy, hopefully something can turn around for us. It could be the Panther fan in me just being a ride or die home team repper, but we just have to see, man.
Yeah. What do you expect to see this next week versus the Chargers?
I just want to see better possession of the ball. Offensively more than anything. I don't want to see, even if we don't win the game, I just want to see us be able to at least hold on to the ball and make receptions. I don't want to see any fumbling. I don't want to see any, you know, first drive picks. I don't want to see any of that. I'm not sure how likely that is, but I just don't want to see a beating like this again this season. It's a pity that we had to start the season off like that. And I just, yeah, those are the two main things I would like to see. I mean, even if we don't win, I just want to see some watchable football on our end. I want to see some legit pass touchdowns. Um, I want to see the connection between our quarterback and his receivers. I
Yeah.
didn't see that at all in this game. I want to see better of that. I want to see better defending at that um, on our end. I mean, we let too many Saints receivers get past us, deep throws and shots, making Derek Carr look like a star quarterback,
Yeah.
which I'm not saying he's completely garbage. He's not, but he's not, top tier either.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I agree with everything you said. I just want to, hopefully turn around, have some positive steps in the right direction. I think for Dave Canales in his first game, just disappointing, man. It's just didn't look good. But next week's a new week, and like I said, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I'm always going to try to pick the positives out of things, but it's definitely bleak right now. So this past week on our social media, both Instagram and X, you could follow us at BuzzPound Pod at both of those. So we had a post on both and asking our listeners if anybody had some questions that they wanted answered on this pod, and we got a few questions that we're gonna answer. So we got one from Braden who says, "Who do you guys want to see step up and take a leadership role with Derrick Brown being out?"
I said it earlier, Shaq Thompson for me. He's our, second hand defensive leader guy on the team. This is his time to shine and lead our defensive team. Like, it was already a big loss losing Brian Burns, who was our true defensive leader. And obviously they had a Derrick Brown in line to do it after paying him all that money to stick around for 4 more years. But it's Shaq's time. Um, that's who I would like to see step up. Offensively, I mean, it's Bryce Young that's going to have to offensively. I mean, he's the one that had the poor performance. Our receivers, some of those times was not their fault at all.
Yeah.
A lot of times it was, you know, overthrown passes. Some were fumbled, but more than anything, I would like to see our defense step up a bit to keep the opposing team from scoring as much, because that was a pretty high score that they had over
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, it was. So I agree with that. I agree. Obviously, Shaq Thompson needs to step up. He's been the longest tenured defender on the team, it seems, for quite a long time. He's been around since Luke Kuechly and was on the team when Cam was here. So, he needs to take that next step and really get this defense together. I mean, obviously you could say Shai Tuttle and Ashawn Robinson, the 2D tackles that we're probably going to have on the field now that Derrick Brown is not going to play this year. But Derrick Brown is one of those guys that's just irreplaceable on this team, especially this defensive line. You're not going to be able to replace a guy like Derrick Brown with the roster we have right now. I'm hoping for a lot out of Shai Tuttle and Ashawn Robinson. Obviously, Ashawn Robinson has played in the league a long time, former um, Alabama player in college, and veteran guy. Hopefully, he could step up and we can see some more potential out of him. But yeah, until we see it, we can't really say anything about it. So next question we got from Mason. Is Bryce acting like the number one pick? If so, what can we do to make him more lethal?
I feel like the pieces are there to make him lethal, but he's going to have to step up his confidence level in order to act like a number one pick.
Yeah.
Because the quarterback is arguably, or to most people, the most important position of football team.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to get his confidence up, because if his confidence is not there, he's not going to perform well. We saw how last year went. At that time, not his fault. There was really nothing around him.
Yep.
This year we got assets. This first game, it should have been, a better showing and like a start over for him with a little more of an advanced team for him. But obviously his confidence is still not there. Just his mannerisms and facial expressions while, on the field, it's just not there. I need that to boost up a bit. I'm not sure if he's just going to have to take a few more years in the league, a few more beatings, but that's the only way, personally, we can make him more lethal.
Yeah. I mean, my answer is Bryce acting like the number one pick. No. I mean, it's simple. It's no, he's not. And it's kind of always going to be overshadowed. The cloud of CJ Stroud is always going to be over Bryce Young, regardless. Their careers are going to be compared for their entirety. But right now, he's not playing like the number one pick. He's just not. And like you mentioned, last year, we didn't have a whole lot of weapons around him to give him any help. But this year, obviously, with some new receivers and some new weapons on offense, you would hope it looks better, but it just hasn't so far. And I think he has all the pieces around him, albeit Deontay Johnson's not an all caliber receiver, but he's an upgrade from what we had last year. Obviously, drafting Xavier Legette in the first round, he had some, I wouldn't say flashes, but he had some catches this past week, and I think he's going to be more implemented in the offense this upcoming week. But we just got to see more out of Bryce, and he's really just got to step it up. That's really all we could say is he's just got to step it up and play better. Melanie asks, do you still think Bryce Young is a franchise quarterback? We kind of already touched on that. What are the areas that could be improved in a short amount of time so that we can have better results? Can we improve the roster we have?
It's a kick in the teeth kind of question there. I just feel like over the offseason, we've improved our areas the best that we could. And I just feel like there's no reason that we played the way that we did this past Sunday. An area that could be improved. I know this may be a biased answer, but I really feel like it may not do us a whole ton of good for the long run, but if we played our veteran back up a little bit, I feel like he can get us in a little more better position. Andy Dalton, he's not the star from Cincinnati that we seen years back, but last year he played one full game. He had us in solid position that whole game. If I'm not mistaken, we played the Seahawks that game. Like I said, it may not be a good thing, for the long run, because he may not even be with us after this season. But I feel like he has enough experience to put us in better position throughout games. Or if we get to a point where we start off like we did last week, maybe throw him in there to get us back on track. That's how I'm looking at it personally. He may not be the winner he is, but I feel like it could be a somewhat of kind of like a Joe Flacco type of deal. You have a veteran quarterback come in and maybe win you a few games with his, veteran skills and leadership, because he's been around for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on the Bryce boat. I don't think, we throw Andy Dalton out there. Maybe he wins us 4 or 5 games, but that's gonna, in my opinion, that would stunt Bryce's development, I think. And my whole thing is when you dump a bunch of assets to get your franchise guy, there's so much riding on Bryce, and you just got to let him play. As much as he's not playing well right now. We didn't trade what we traded to let Bryson on the bench. We just, unfortunately, and it's like I said earlier, it's just bad team management. And obviously the teams went through a couple GMs in the past couple years, a couple coaches. And right now, as much as I love the Panthers, we're just the bottom of the league. And we have been for the past 2 years, just the very bottom. And I still think, and maybe this is a homer take, but I still think Bryce Young could be a franchise. I'm not ready to sell him out after one bad year and one bad game the following year. I think he can be a franchise quarterback. We've seen this past week Sam Darnold play amazing for the Vikings, and Baker Mayfield continue to play well for the Buccaneers. And I feel like there's something missing, and we could still see it out of Bryce. I just think we haven't seen it yet. And I mean, only time will tell, I guess. We got a long year, and we'll be here every week talking about it, but it's upsetting. And to improve this roster we have right now, I don't think there's any, free agents out there really that would improve the roster. I think it's going to be a kind of wait and see how the coaching staff does. And hopefully, Canales in game 2 this upcoming Sunday can play better, or coach better and have the guys ready to play. But it's going to take some veteran leadership from Shaq Thompson and Austin Corbett on the offensive line, and these guys, Taylor Moton, and these guys that have been around for a long time to really just step up and get this team where it needs to be, at least this year. I don't think this team's not a playoff team, but we can win some games, and I truly believe that. And if not, I mean, we're going to end up with the first overall pick next year and take our pick of the litter at quarterback, or whatever the team may do. But I guess it's kind of a wait and see game. So, all right, Buzz Pound, we appreciate y'all hanging around with us today. You can follow us on our social medias on Twitter and Instagram at BuzzPoundPod. And Cam, do you have any last thoughts?
And we'll be back with episode 3 after, week 2 coming up this Sunday. And we'll just have to see how we look there, if there's any changes, if there's any improvement, or if we just happen to play just as bad, if not worse. We just have to see how it goes. We'll be back to cover that game. This time we don't have any Hornets coverage, as nothing major occurred with the organization this week. So maybe next week we'll come back with some Hornets content.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, until then, we're the Buzz Pound. Keep pounding, and Buzz City.
Right. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Buzz Pound. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and let us know what you thought of this episode. Until next time, this is the Buzz Pound.
Touchdown!